You're thinking about making a move to Orange County, and Irvine is on your list. It's on almost everybody's list, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about some of the good things you already know about Irvine, but I'm also going to talk about some of the bad things. So this is pros and cons of Irvine. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name's Christian, team leader and owner of Onyx Homes. We're a team that has helped over 600 people move just since 2020. And we've got over 400 5-star reviews, and Irvine is the city we do the most business in. So I'm going to go ahead and break down the pros and cons of Irvine, starting with the pros. The first thing that we're going to talk about with Irvine for the pros is honestly the location. There's a lot of different pros for Irvine. We're going to touch on some of them. Location's one of the biggest. Now I'm going to go ahead, pull up my computer here, and I'm going to go to our website, onyxhomes.com. I'm going to hit the search button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show us where Irvine's at. So if you're not super familiar with Orange County, let's zoom way out. San Diego to the south, Los Angeles to the north. Let's go ahead and look at just Irvine. So I'm going to type this in, hit Irvine, go to search, and here is where we're at. So as you can see, we are literally smack dab in the middle of Orange County. Now, if we're getting a little bit more specific, on the south part of Irvine, you have the 5 and the 405 intersection, which is right where the Irvine Spectrum is right here. You also have the 133 toll road that goes into Laguna Beach. It's not a toll road, I guess. Highway that goes into Laguna Beach. You have the 73 toll road that, I mean, technically, like, it goes to Irvine, but this is a really good way to get to South County. Also Newport as well, too. You have the 261 rather, toll road that goes through the north side of Irvine. You have the 241 and the 133. I guess that's why I call it toll road. This is the 133 turns into the 241. This also goes all the way to Laguna. The 241 or the 261 turns into 241 is what gets you into the Riverside area, right? So like the whole inland empire, if you will, that 241, 261 all go right there. Now you also have on the very, very north side, you have the 55 freeway as well too, which goes right into Newport Beach. So from a convenience factor, you can just get everywhere very easily. The 241 toll road also goes all the way through like the inland southern Orange County, all the way through Coto de Caza and dumps off in Rancho Mission Viejo, right next to San Juan Capistrano. So that is as far as location, one of the major things. And it's also, if you look at this naturally, it's the inland Newport is really the best, and one of the major reasons why Irvine is from a location standpoint, it's just inland Newport Beach, and it's super convenient. Now, the last part of the location that I'll mention as well too is John Wayne's right here. So one of the most convenient airports I've ever been into is SNA, John Wayne, Santa Ana Airport. Really, really convenient, right off of the 405, right off the 55, right off the 73. It just is in a really, really easy spot on like the south point of Irvine as well too. Now, obviously, location's a huge part of real estate. Location. Everybody's heard that. So also, let me zoom out on our map here. You are from Irvine. You're right about an hour away from LA, especially downtown. You're also right about an hour away from San Diego. Now, this is true for pretty much all of Orange County, but you're also about an hour away from the Riverside, like this general area over here. Temecula, maybe an hour and a half. So from a central location standpoint, it's just convenient for numerous different reasons that I just mentioned. Now, the next pro that I'm going to talk about for Irvine is going to be the community overall. Now, it is a great place for all ages. There's older areas, there's newer areas, meaning like demographic wise for people that live there. It is very, very clean, very balanced of residential, commercial, and kind of recreation areas. It's not just residential, it's not houses on everywhere. Like some cities are literally just everything is houses. There's a really good mix of all three, and the fact that there's commercial in there as well too is going to lead to another pro that we'll list in a minute. There's just a lot of stuff to do in Irvine as well too. I'll talk about more of that in a minute, but a really nice different pockets of community. So you can find different types of events depending on where you're looking in Irvine as well too. So overall, from a community standpoint, I guess the best way to put it is Irvine's really friendly for a lot of diverse types of people, meaning like if you don't like to do very much of anything, you just want to stay in your neighborhood, Irvine has a lot of great places for that. If you like walking distance stuff, Irvine's great for that, where a lot of cities don't have that. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is a huge pro for Irvine is the job market is massive. The Irvine is a central hub for Orange County overall, both from a location standpoint, as well as a lot of people work and live in Irvine, or a lot of people want to live in Irvine. A lot of people do work in Irvine. So that brings a lot of things. It brings a lot of jobs to Irvine. There's a lot of big companies like Blizzard, Broadcom, Edwards Life Sciences, and UCI. There's a huge university in Irvine as well too, University of California, Irvine, which is a phenomenal state university as well too. So there is a huge job market in Irvine, and honestly in the surrounding areas too. I know that doesn't really have anything to do with Irvine, but they're in surrounding areas. Like for example, Lake Forest has a really good job market because it just so happens to be right next to Irvine. So does Costa Mesa, so does Newport. All of those different things are kind of byproducts of Irvine being a really good market for that. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is kind of pivoting from that is safety in schools. Number one and number one. I don't know what chart. I guarantee you can find a chart where Irvine is the best in both or either one. You get my point. Irvine it's one of the safest cities, definitely in Orange County, if not the safest. It's definitely one of the safest cities in California, and it's got to be on the list, somebody's list for safest cities in the United States. It just is. Same with schools. They have fantastic schools. I know people will downgrade their house dramatically just to get the kids into the schools. People will pay way more money for the house just to get the kids into the school district. People will absolutely not move out of Irvine to take their kids out of the school and go to a different school district. Now, is it required? Is it the only good schools? No, it's not. Not at all. But they're really good schools. It's really safe. Irvine has its own police department as well too, along the lines of safety. A lot of other cities in Orange County just go off Orange County Sheriff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Either way, it's just additional layer of security. The schools are fantastic. There's not a ton else to say here other than these are two of the major reasons why most people do choose that Irvine at least being on their list, is if you can get into Irvine because of these things, that might be a huge win. Now, other thing, I'm gonna end here. There are a million other pros for Irvine. I'm gonna ask you to put in your comments because I probably missed yours. Put it in the comments down below so that other people can see what yours is. But things to do. Irvine has so much stuff to do. For example, I live in Mission Viejo. If I wanted to eat out 7 nights a week, I would be rotating between 2 or 3 restaurants, literally. In Irvine, you could probably eat out every single night for the whole month and never even think about going to the same restaurant twice. And that's for restaurants, right? There's also shopping. You've got the Irvine Spectrum. You're really close to South Coast Plaza. You're really close to Irvine. But you've also got Great Park. There is so much stuff to do in Irvine. And there's a lot of range, right? There's a lot of different types of food. There's a lot of different types of entertainment. And you're centrally located, so it's easy to get anywhere. You're 10-15 minutes from Newport. You're 10 minutes from Costa Mesa. You're 10-15 minutes from Laguna Beach. So from a convenience standpoint, going and doing other things, but also like a lot of the times when you're going to go do something, you do go to Irvine. So that's probably one of the biggest pros, but it's also a byproduct of just the location overall, because even if you're not doing stuff in Irvine, you're probably right on the border of it. So that's some of the pros. I know there's a lot of other pros, and if I mention yours, put in the comment down below. But I'm going to move on to the cons, because this is probably frankly more of why you're watching the video, because there's a lot of really good things about Irvine. But I'm going to talk about a few of the not so great things. Number one is traffic. Because it's a central hub, Irvine has a lot of traffic. A lot of people drive from all over the place to work in Irvine. There's a ton of people that live in Riverside, work in Irvine, and that traffic is just brutal. It just is. This is like as close as we get as LA traffic is Irvine. It gets worse during peak hours because there's a lot of commuter because the job force is good. All the things that are pros also create cons as well too. So if you're commuting around that during rush hour, like definitely plan for it. It just is what it is. The next thing is a high cost of living. I call this the Irvine tax. It really just, I think it's the best way to explain it when I'm talking to people who are in your shoes thinking about making a move is, I said Mission Viejo as an example. I live here also. Are you willing to pay 30 to 50% more to live in Irvine to have probably a smaller like comparable house to house? If you're buying in Irvine for 1.5, you could probably buy the same house in Mission Viejo for $1 million. And instead of being a 10 to 10 school in safety, you're at a 8 to 9. Like there's not a massive difference, but for some people, it just makes sense. And this is where it totally depends on you and your individual stuff. Now, Irvine's not Newport. It's not Laguna Beach. It's half the price of those, but Irvine overall is just more expensive. And I think one thing that probably bothers me or is frustrating for me as a real estate agent and just talking to tons of people is so many people just choose not to buy because they can't buy what they want in Irvine when you have so many other options to just look at, if that makes sense. Where somebody say, oh, I can't afford a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family residence in Irvine because $1.8 million, I'm just not going to buy a house when you could get for $1 million, you could buy that in 19 other cities, and like literally the difference in price could send your kids to private schools. That's the part that I think frustrates me with I have to buy in Irvine type things, because yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff, but it is a lot more money. And if you can live in Irvine and all those things are important and you can afford it, it's fantastic. But there's a lot of people that feel like they have to live in Irvine and they might not have to live in Irvine. So that's probably the biggest con, that it is a really high cost of living. And depending on if the pros are, you have to have those, maybe disproportionate. So that's the big one. Now, other things that I like to mention is that Irvine is really known for architecture in the sense of there is none. I mean that facetiously. There is architecture in Irvine. There are parts of Irvine where it's absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. If you do not like cookie cutter HOA homes, you will despise Irvine. Irvine looks like it's the same house and somebody just held down copy and paste on the keyboard and just made a bajillion of the same house. I'm kind of joking, but if you don't like that type of stuff, it's just how Irvine is. When they built it, it was just everything looks pretty much the same, and the houses are all on top of each other for the most part. I mean, you can even get into $3-4 million houses, and we've sold $3-4 million, $5 million houses that are on top of each other. Now, if this doesn't bother you, that's fine. It's no problem. But this is where, again, as a real estate professional, where if you could say, okay, if I'm spending this much money here, what do I get elsewhere? Is it worth the trade-off? This is just one of the major cons overall, is the tax. And if you don't like the HOA cookie cutter stuff, Irvine's probably not going to be for you. Now, are there places in Irvine that don't have that? Yes, absolutely. I'm talking obviously in broad general strokes. The pros for Irvine are massive. I cannot emphasize enough, the location is just perfect. It just is. The convenience is huge, not only in location, but it also has everything. It's also a really good use of, or mix of residential, commercial, and recreation. The other pros, like the schools and safety, it's massive. A lot of people don't feel the need to send their kids to private schools that want that experience because the schools are that good, because it is that safe. But the cons are also big as well too. So it's like a dynamic pro and con where there's really not a whole lot of the middle. There's a lot of really, really good, and there's a lot of like, ooh man, those do hurt a little bit. But frankly, if you don't mind, a lot of the cons are related to either convenience of traffic or cost. And if you're saying, hey, I can afford what I want and I like all of the pros, fantastic. It's why Irvine's so popular. It's why it's so expensive. But if not on the cons, totally get it as well too. Now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, gosh, Irvine sounds fantastic and this is a place that I definitely want to put on my list, but I don't know if I should rent or if I should buy, because that's a whole nother conversation. I made another video that is rent versus own in Irvine. So if you want to check that out, click here. Before you do, like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.